Oh, talk to him, Bob. Tell him how to play that old music. Uh-oh, he done lost his milk cow. Dadgum, poor old Bob won't have no milk in the morning, no butter. Uh, well, old Bob kind of gets me back down to earth after talking to people like Mark and good callers that call in the show and get me all stirred up on the events of the day. But that's why I enjoy this show, and I really do want to take some time to thank our sponsors for this show. And I might comment that if we don't get some more sponsors for this show is going to end the last of this month. So I can't afford to fund this show. So it has to be funded by sponsors. I don't make a dime out of this show. I enjoy the heck out of it, uh, but I don't make any money out of it, and I still got to make a living. So, at any rate, enough said about that. I think we got somebody hanging on the telephone here that we need to talk to. His name is Wayne. Wayne, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go
And boy,
ahead
I
on.
tell you what, I enjoyed listening to what y'all were talking, and I would like to make a comment. But first, I would like to say, I would like the guy that the last caller, Mark, that call you back after I ask you or tell you my comment, or for any other officer, whether you be a highway patrol deputy or city cop, I would like to know their opinion. But talking about how the kids act, well, my comment is, yeah, it starts at home first, I would say, but it's not 100% at home when they push all these dadgum drugs on these kids now. Just this week I was reading in 92, there was one law passed, I forget the name of the drug that they're pushing on kids. And you know as well, Con, at your age, my age, these drugs were never, ever pushed on us, and we never acted this way.
Well, you know the
And
difference, Wayne? Let me interrupt here just a minute. The difference is you and I were taught, I don't know how old you are, but I'm old enough that uh, all of my life, if I got a scratch or a hurt or a whatever, or if somebody said something I didn't like, I got over it and I went on with life. I didn't dwell on the negative. I didn't feel sorry for myself, and it did not make me a victim. But now everybody's got to take a pill of some kind to get over the stress or the strain or the whatever. So I think you're right. I think a lot of this is caused by different kinds of drugs.
but you know it. I mean, I know there are some drugs we have to take, whether you got cholesterol, high blood pressure, or when you come out of surgery for pain. I had surgery back in July. I mean, if I wouldn't have had pain medication, they cut my leg. I mean, basically plumb off, and then had to put it back together. Well, that would have been horrible pain. But that's not what I'm really completely all getting at. I mean, that I did some things that uh, I don't remember what they were telling me. I remember seeing things that weren't there, but I thought they were there at the time. But I mean, that's just temporary, and it. But some of these things are beyond that. I mean, things you don't want to take, things you don't need that they still push on you or push on our kids. I had an appointment last week. Doctor said, well, I guess I can't give you anything. You won't take anything. No, I don't need anything. I just came in, had my blood pressure and all, basic checkup. I don't need drugs. But it starts with these, dang, pharmaceutical companies that I get so furious with pushing these drugs. It's about profits, 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 profits. No
Well,
one needs to live in a 5 million, 10 million, $20 million home. That's ridiculous. When you die, you can't take it to your grave.
well,
And that.
it is about pharmaceuticals getting rich, Wayne, but it's also about us people in this country getting weaker and expecting more help from a drug or a pill or a whatever. Uh, I had a fellow call me last week or two talking about how horrible it was in his situation in America, and I said, why don't you get over it? Stop being a victim and just go on with life. But you look at how many groups of victims we got now, Wayne. We got black
Mm-hmm.
victims and women victims and brown victims and police victims and criminal victims. We got every kind of a victim known to man, and we don't have very many people that are willing to say, "Well, shut up and get over it." You know,
Mhm.
it's. But we come from a different generation, Wayne. That's all I can say, I guess.
Right. But I mean, I really would like to hear or someone called in, that's in law enforcement who expresses their opinion. How do they feel? And I mean, the guy you had, I hope he calls you right back. Because
Yep.
I would like to know his opinion. But I
Well,
mean, that's just the way I feel. We don't need all these drugs.
no, we
It
don't, and we don't really understand what they contribute to the things that are going on. I'm like you. I had a little surgery here a couple of years ago, and they gave me something. I don't know what it was, but I know when I came home after the surgery, I had to quit watching TV because if I saw a beautiful lady on the screen on TV, it turned out to be something like The Walking Dead. So I had to be real careful what I looked at because uh, it was that way a lot until that drug, whatever it was, wore off. But I'm like you. I don't need no more of that kind of stuff. In fact, I
but
don't. I don't. I don't need. I take very, very little medicine. I take an aspirin and stuff like that. But I'm not hooked on drugs of all kinds. You know.
but it goes further even beyond that. These people buy, and that's why I vote. Y'all were talking about vote. I do vote. Oh, I vote. I think last time said something about me when I called going to the polls. You better believe I was there. And I will not vote. I will not support a politician who takes and launders money from a drug company and then denies it. Now, there's one that was just voted out. He was in our area. I won't mention the name, but I don't stand and support Democrats, but so I was going to have to vote for him. But he did get voted out. But the person that got Democrat got voted in. Well, at least by getting him out, we can also get the Democrat out next term. But
Well, Wayne,
anyway,
I would encourage all of us, though. I think we all ought to vote, but let's go beyond that. Let's look at who we're voting for. Let's look at who his donors are. If we've got
exactly, and I traced it. It was
yeah.
a pharmaceutical company.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. We ought to spend more of our due diligence to find out who and what we're voting for. And another question I have is, what bills did they vote for when they were in office the last time? There's one fellow, and I won't mention the name, but when he was a representative and Obama was president, I think I'm right, he voted for every dad blame thing Barack Obama wanted. Well, I begin to question, is he a Republican or a Democrat? So before I vote for somebody, I want to know what kind of bills he voted for, what kind of bills did he sponsor, and who paid him to be there. Because his largest donors is who owns him. If he's got three donors that have given him the vast amount of his campaign funds, then they own him and they dictate what he's going to vote for. So I think we need to pay attention to that as voters.
And another thing, I spoke to I was waiting in the checkout line and at Walmart this morning. Spoke to a very nice older lady, and we somehow or another we got on the same subject what we're talking about now, and we got talking about drugs and kids and how kids act, and she said the same thing. She said, she said, my husband and I never been sick. We didn't have, a flu or anything. One year we took the flu vaccine. We both were sick. I said, exactly. I said, I was the same way. I don't take it, and it's really against my religion to take something, putting into my body, which is a temple of the God, and why take it, knowing you're destroying your own body. It's going to put you in a place when you die you don't want to go to,
Well, let me quote.
She said they took it, they were both sick, and then they quit taking it. She said, we've never been sick again.
Well, a doctor advised me one time, very simple. He said, if God didn't make it, don't take it. and you can take that too far, I guess. But it's pretty good advice if you think about it, Wayne.
It
Right,
is.
right now we got to go to a break of some kind, I think.
Okay,
Anyway, Wayne, we
but I would.
appreciate your call, and
Okay, but I really wish there was a law. I'd like to hear a law enforcement officer of any kind call you with their opinion. Is what I would like to hear.
well, I really did enjoy Mark's phone call there a while ago because he's a little bit different than some police officers. You know, he didn't sound like a victim police officer. He sounded like a good
Right.
common sense. He sounded
Right.
like a peace officer, Wayne, and that's the
Yes.
difference. We have peace
Yes.
officers and we have revenue collectors. And
Yes.
I like to see and like to meet a peace officer, and I've met two or three here lately. There's two different highway patrolmen that I've met here lately. One of them just got killed, but Tom Hipper, he stopped me twice in about 2 weeks out on the loop, and both times he was very much a gentleman, and I appreciated the way he treated me when he stopped me. A deputy sheriff stopped me at night on the same loop not too long ago. I probably shouldn't mention his name, but I will anyway. His name was O'Brien, and he treated me like a common, decent human being, and I really did appreciate that. We just
Oh
need
yeah, we
more
all
of them.
do.
Uh,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Anyway, thank you for the call, Wayne, and
Okay.
you be careful out there.
And Conn, if I could, real quick before we go to the break, the only reason I was signaling is I was going to mention this kind of ties into your theme today. A story that came out this morning. I've got it up at ktemnews.com. Two 16-year-old girls have been arrested in connection to that fatal shooting at the Walmart here on the west side of town earlier this week. There was an 18-year-old man who was fatally shot in the parking lot. And according to police, a 16-year-old girl turned herself in at police headquarters last night. And then a short time later, about an hour later, they arrested another 16-year-old in the 1700 block of South 15th. And they've both been charged with murder. They are currently in the juvenile detention center in Killeen.
Well, and see, it raises a question to me. What were those kids being taught at home? What gave them the idea to go shoot the young man, and what did he do to deserve being killed? I don't know, but I keep saying the same thing, I guess. What kind of a generation are we raising today? What are we producing for human beings to run the country in our future? Are we producing teenagers and people that are rude, crude, vulgar? What does Hollywood produce? Hollywood is promoting the F word. And how many young people go to a movie or watch television and they get this implanted in their brain to use the F word? I know some millennial people that cannot speak without using the F word in every sentence. What value does the F word have? I know other people that when someone uses the F word, they laugh. What's funny about it? What value does that word have, and why are some people so inclined to use that word so often? Why? Where's that coming from? You know, I was raised to talk decent to people and not flower my conversation with vulgar words. I think if that's the only vocabulary you've got, you need to you need to change your vocabulary because how does that add to the conversation? But at any rate,
And I guess I fit into the category of millennial. I just turned 32 a couple of weeks ago, and so the word doesn't really shock me. But I'll tell you what really annoys me is when it's used as a crutch, which I think it often is. It's like the word "like." Like when somebody can't stop saying it's a crutch, I think, and it's an extreme crutch.
I understand someone, and I have said I've said something like that occasionally, especially if I hit myself on the thumb with a hammer, or if a cow kicks me on the shin, and it's or something like that. But to use those kind of words in a casual conversation, what what's in your brain? What kind of vocabulary do you have, or do you not have one?
I think it's a mix of limited vocabulary and the need to blast out as much of your speech
Em-
as possible, like a
Emotion.
shotgun, so that you can make sure you get everything out and the other person doesn't interrupt you. It's almost like a stutter, I would say. People say a stutter will develop if somebody is constantly feeling that they have to get that information out quickly before they're interrupted, And I just used a crutch there. That's another one that gets on people's nerves, but
Yeah, it's well. Anyway, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything else, but right now we've got to go to a break, try to pay a few bills. There's old Bob talking about Corina. Ain't had no living since she's been gone. Oh my goodness. At any rate, here we are back on the Common Sense with Conn show. If y'all have something you want to talk about, the call-in number here is 773-1400. And at some point, I'm going to take time to say a few more words about our good sponsors, but I can't get a word in edgeways because I got so much to talk about. So y'all kind of forgive me when I take a break and talk about old Jack Folsom over there at Reed Realty or somebody like that. Old Jack just does a real good job of selling your house or your land or whatever it is you want to sell. He is at 116 North Avenue, North 3rd Street in Temple. If you're going up 3rd Street going north, you'll pass the Jack in the Box on the left, and he's the next two-story house just past Jack in the Box. Now, they do real estate management. They'll manage your rental property for you. They'll sell your rental property. They'll sell your house. If you're living in a tent, he'll sell the tent. So give old Jack Folsom a holler there at Reed Realty. His phone number is 760-4465. That's 760-4465. Talk to old Jack Folsom over there. He's a good guy. Another one is Extreme Hose. Extreme Hose is out there on South General Bruce Drive. His phone number is 254-231-3403. Now, what Frank does out there at Extreme Hose is he'll rebuild you a hydraulic hose or a hydraulic fitting. I was just there yesterday. I broke 2 fittings in a little crane we got, and walked in there, and I don't know what they would have cost from Grove Crane Company. Probably scared me half to death, but they kind of substituted a different kind of a fitting and made it work, and it didn't cost much. So if you need something like that done, well, go by Extreme Hose out there and talk to Frank. His phone number is 254-231-3403. That's 231-3403. That's Extreme Hose. Go by there and talk to him. And right now, I better talk to old Ed. He doesn't call me from up there in Idaho. One of my good callers, good listeners, and just a pretty good kind of a fella. I hate to say that in front of him, but anyway, Ed, are you still there?
Hello, Mr. Conn. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing tolerable well. Can't complain.
I have to tell you, you have a pretty smart board operator there.
He's a good guy. He really is. And I like to hear him make comments because he's younger than I am by 2 or 3 days or more. And he sees things that you and I don't see every day.
That's true.
Because of the age difference, and we need to hear from young people. And I think young people need to listen to folks like us because sometimes we've experienced some things that they haven't, and they might learn a little something, but by the same token, we might learn something listening to him. So what's on your mind, Ed?
We can learn from each other. I have 2 topics I'd like to discuss. One is Mark's call, and when I was in the academy, which was in 1970, a long time ago, one of the things that really has stayed with me today is the instructor at the time said, each one of you guys breaks the law every day. So people were looking around the room like, are they following me? What he meant by that is that you're dealing with people and you have to use your discretion. The saying, which was really popular among the cops at the time, was discretion is the biggest part of law enforcement. And that was something.
See, that's what's lost today, Ed, and that's what I was talking about a while ago. Where'd it go? What happened to it?
Well, the place that I worked at, which was a very high crime area, you didn't want to rile the residents because you never know when you'd be on the street, somebody trying to kill you. You'd want the citizen to drop a dime in your favor for officer in trouble run. So, that's just something to keep in mind. A little PR goes a long way.
Well, but see, y'all were trying to make friends and not enemies, and that's another problem I've got is we have a lot of officers like the ones I just mentioned a while ago that have stopped me, highway patrol and deputy sheriff. They're trying to make friends, but then we have others that are trying to make enemies. And why on earth does a cop want to make you an enemy?
Yeah, well, this mentality of show me the guy and I'll show you the crime, that's out the window. That person does not belong on the job. And the old saying was, if the heat's too much, get out of the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a discussion with a police chief up in Kalispell one time, and I guess I've mentioned this before, but he spent about 30 minutes telling me how horrible it was being a police officer. And I asked him, when were you drafted? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you wasn't drafted, why in the hell don't you quit? If it's that bad. But, and I'm serious about that. If they're going to bitch and moan and cry about the job they're doing, if you weren't drafted, quit. Go do something else. But if you're going to complain about it the entire time, why are you doing it? So,
well, being a police officer in Kalispell at the time would have been the equivalent of being in a retirement home as far as
yeah,
what I've
exactly.
experienced.
That's what I thought. The crime rate there was somewhere between nil and nothing. But to listen to him talk, it was just unmitigated hell out there on the street. And that's why I asked him that question.
Okay, the other topic I'd like to discuss is what I consider to be the falling away of the Trump supporters. And Tucker Carlson made a comment recently, and where he basically said that he didn't think that Trump was capable of being president. And previously, I thought he was a Trump supporter.
Well, I did too.
I'm seeing the same thing happen with other people that were staunch Trump supporters, and I wonder if they're beginning to crack because of all this negative publicity from the communists and the media, the news media.
Well, Ed, have they lost their ability to think and reason? If you think Donald Trump is that horrible, awful bad, who do you want to replace him with?
Exactly.
Would that be Alexandria, what is her name, in New York? Is that your next choice? Or maybe Bernie Sanders? Oh, great. So I'm just saying there are things about Trump that I don't really, really like, but I am not willing to sacrifice the 90% that I do like because of the 10% I don't like. That's a bad trade.
If I can bring to light another point that he brought up, was that he said that Trump has not kept his promises. Well, as I remember it, the day of the inauguration, he brought forth a desire to build a wall, and he was shut down not only by the Communards, but by the bums in his own party.
Yes.
I think, in my opinion, in my observation, I believe that he's done everything that he can to fulfill his promises, but the opposition has been so great. This 2-year investigation by Mueller, Mueller should be brought to charges for uranium-1 for him going to Russia with a uranium sample. I mean,
well, and
you want to talk about collusion?
Also, Ed, they brought up a couple of days ago that if you bribe someone to give certain testimony, if you tell him you'll pay him to testify in such a way, that's a crime. That's called bribery. Okay, what's the difference between offering someone $10,000 to give testimony or offering him to not go to jail for life to give a certain testimony? Bribery is bribery. Whether you're using a jail sentence or cash money, it's still bribery. How come Mueller is not going to be on trial for trying to bribe witnesses?
Plus bringing false charges. A 2-year investigation, they've not been able to find any collusion They're just giving him the rectal exam to disrupt what he's doing, and that's it. And now this is being performed by these deep state operators that actually commit many crimes, felonies, and they get away with it. And to extend the thought from what you're saying, they'll give false testimony, and then their crimes, as numerous as they are and as large as they are being dropped. What kind of stuff is that?
Well, the one complaint I have against Donald Trump is that he hasn't gone into the Justice Department, the FBI, whoever, and fired every Obama appointee in those organizations. Why hasn't he gone and just fired every stinking one of them? Say, you get out. You got 30 minutes to clean out your desk and get out of this office. I don't know why he hadn't done that. I guarantee that's what I'd do. Of course, I'm not president of the United States either. But as far as him not keeping all of his promises that we mentioned a minute ago, we need to understand that Donald Trump is not a dictator. He is the president. He has to work with a place called the United States Congress. And if the Democrats and some of his own party block things that he wants to do, yeah, that's an unkept promise. But like I say, he's not a dictator. He's the president.
If he were to do what Obama was doing, he'd be ruling by executive order.
Exactly. Yeah, look at how many executive orders Obama passed, and look at the damage he did to our industry in America. You know, Donald Trump just reversed an executive order that he did about coal-fired generating plants. You know, I applaud Donald Trump's doing that, but let's recognize the fact that he had to correct a very, very bad mistake that Barack Obama created. So, you know, they talk a lot about the value and how we need to go to solar and wind power generator electricity. I'll never forget them interviewing Bob Murray from Murray Oil Company. And admittedly now he has an oil company, and I understand that his opinion might be biased, but I also understand that he was telling the truth. He said when you generate electricity with coal or natural gas, it's worth 6 cents a kilowatt hour. When you generate it with wind or solar, it costs 22 cents a kilowatt hour. Well, Ed, that's 4 times more money if you do it that way. So is that really going to help the American public to raise their electricity bills by 400%?
Well, there's a total lapse of common sense in this country, and people don't even have the capacity to think for themselves anymore.
They don't.
They turn on the news, what's called the news, which is actually propaganda, and they believe the lies. There's very little investigative journalism anymore.
Well, somebody said once, if you tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And
that's right.
That's what we're seeing today in CNN, ABC, NBC, stuff like that. They repeat the same lie over and over and over and over. You know, Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump is wrong. Donald Trump is evil. Donald Trump is a liar. How many times have you heard the phrase, Donald Trump is a liar? And they repeat that over and over and over again. Then when you say, well, give me an example of what you're talking about. You know, so, but how many of us believe that trash that the news media is putting out?
Well, obviously, a lot of people do, because they've been brainwashed.
Well, exactly, and that is what's happening to us. They are being brainwashed, and it's so sad that we, the people, don't recognize that they are brainwashing us. When are we going to wake up and smell the coffee, Ed?
Well, it's up to us. You're doing your job. You're informing people, and just keep spreading the word.
Well, I intend to do that. So, Ed, I appreciate you calling. You be careful up there. And
you do the same.
You better go take Terry out to supper tonight and give her a big old steak or something. Tell her we said hello.
Do that.
Okay. Be careful up there, Ed. Thank you for the call. Okay, folks, here we are back needing to do a break. We got to advertise for our sponsors here in just a minute, so y'all hang in there and we'll be right back. Okay, there's some of that good old Bob Wills music, folks, and I hate to get in the middle of it, but we got to go on with this Common Sense with Conn radio call-in talk show. If y'all want to call in and say something, well, the number here is 773-1400. Call in and tell us what you're thinking about. We really have enjoyed the show today. We've enjoyed the people that have called in and the comments they've made and the conversations we've had. What this show is all about, folks, if you haven't already figured it out, I just like to have a good common sense conversation with good common people. Uh, I think we have an obligation to the knowledge that we have. If we know something about freedom and liberty, then we have an obligation to spread that knowledge. If we believe in America and we believe in the Judeo Christian way of life that we have here, then we have an obligation to try to protect that way of life. We have an obligation to spread the truth about America and about freedom and liberty and the Constitution and our founding fathers and that kind of stuff. But we are being bombarded with lies and political correct social change that they're trying to do to America. They are literally destroying the freedom and liberty that allows them to try to create the social change. They're destroying the thing that allows them to talk. And I can't figure out just what their goal is. I'm talking about the progressive left, the people that are really trying to destroy the Constitution and our way of life. Where do they want to take this? Tom Steyer and George Soros, they are hell bent on destroying America. Barack Obama, the first thing out of his mouth was, I want to fundamentally change America. Change it to what and why? Nobody asked that question. I did not hear one news commentator ask the question, what do you want to change it to? And why do you want to change it? We have the greatest, freest nation in the history of the world. And you want to change it to what? Communism? Islam? What do you want to change it to?
I wonder if Rick in Salado knows.
Yeah, I bet old Rick knows what the answer to that is.
Hey, if I knew the answer to that, I'd be a lot richer than I am. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to get in the minds of those people, but I have a question about, well, not a question, but yeah, I guess it is. What happened to George H.W. Bush after he fought in World War II and was shot down in that life raft, and then he went to Harvard and changed from a patriotic young man to a globalist? What is it about Harvard that turns these people into globalists?
Well, what is it about Harvard and Yale and it was bad then, Rick? But what is it now? I mean, it's 100 times worse now than it was then. So,
I mean, just think of all the people who came from those schools that have been in politics here in the United States, and how they all have this same kind of theme going. Like George H. Walker Bush, he would talk about a new world order a lot. He did more speeches about that than I think I've ever heard anyone do. And then Bill Clinton, then it looks like he just sort of steps aside and lets Bill Clinton win the election. And you could tell that George H. Walker Bush did not want to win that election. It was obvious as the nose on your face. And then he just steps aside, lets Bill Clinton come in, who he said it's the economy, stupid, and insulted Bush and stuff. And then later he's like, I agree with President Bush. We should have the UN run everything and have a one world government and stuff like that.
well, Rick, I think that we do not have any idea the power and the threats that float around in Washington, D.C. I don't think we don't have any idea of the Al Capone type stuff that happens in Washington, D.C.
I know. Can you imagine what it's like to be married to Hillary Clinton? I mean, do you remember when she was running for president? Now, I heard that she got so angry at this WikiLeaks guy that she actually sort of said something like, can't we just send a drone and take him out?
Well, I don't doubt that for a second, Rick, because do you really think Vince Foster committed suicide and then threw the pistol 20 or 30 feet out there? And the young man, 23 years old, I've forgotten his name now, that was going to send the information from the DNC to WikiLeaks or somewhere, and all of a sudden he died of a gunshot wound in an armed robbery. Now, they didn't take anything. They didn't take his cell phone or his watch or his money or nothing else. They just shot him and killed him. Are we really stupid enough to believe that he was not assassinated? Look at the people around Hillary that have just all of a sudden developed suicidal tendencies or were killed.
Well, Chicago, like you've mentioned in the past, is the hub of corruption. That's where I think that's where organized crime originated, and that's where
it certainly was perfected there.
Yeah, and anyway, I've really enjoyed this show today. I didn't even think I was going to be able to call in, but it was just so many good callers. I just enjoyed the heck out of it, and I'm sorry to call and ruin it, but anyway, that's all right.
No, I'm glad you called, Rick.
You guys have fun. Bye.
Hey, you are always welcome on this show, and just a real good caller. And to echo what Rick just said, I've really enjoyed today's show. I've enjoyed the good callers and the good comments made, and I always enjoy this show. But yeah, like I say, folks, this show is going to end if we don't get some more sponsors. I would like to keep it going, we've got enough. We've got it paid for until the end of December. I think the first week in January. But if we don't get some more sponsors in here, well, I guess I'm going to go quietly into the night. But anyway, we're going to keep talking until that time comes. So if we got another caller.
I'll try to take it now. We had a bad connection, but they may be calling back.
Okay. We'll just keep running our mouth until we figure out who that is. Okay. Well, my theme for today was, what kind of future generations are we raising? I see laziness and slothfulness and rudeness and crudeness and vulgarity creeping at an all-time speed, and it kind of has me worried. Right now, James in Bartlett is going to tell me all about it. James, what do you think about everything?
Well, Conn, I've listened to you for some time. I've tried to get in several times and never been able to make it. My brother lives close to you in Davila, and he had talked about you, and my sister-in-law had. So I just been really wanting to get in touch with you. I don't have anything really profound. I'm not very articulate. But I'd like to leave with you today what is one thing that I think is happening in our society. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go.
Amen.
And when he is old, he will not depart from it. The problem is that we are trying to teach our children, and they're not learning. Because the Bible says, train them. When you train a horse, you don't ask the horse what he wants to do. When you train a dog, you don't ask him, do you want to potty inside or outside?
Yeah, that is an excellent point, James. An excellent point. We have evolved into a society that asks a 3-year-old what they want to do. We don't tell the 3-year-old what he's going to do. And I've said before, and I can't say it strong enough, 2 things you need to teach your child when they're about 2 or 3 years old. You need to teach them what no means, and you need to teach them how to work. Because if you teach them how to work, they'll always make a living. They'll always be a productive citizen. If you don't teach them what no means, there's a place down in Huntsville called Texas Department of Corrections. They can teach them what no means. So it is super important for parents of small children to teach them the word no and what it means, and teach them how to work.
Yeah. Well, now, I don't want in any way to rebuke you in any way.
No.
I hope you don't mistake what I'm saying. But the Bible says for us to train them. This is what you're going to do. Train them up in the way they should go. I was trained. I was not given an opportunity. I know you don't like broccoli. I know you don't like this. I know you don't like beets. But you're going to eat a bite of it.
Yeah.
You're going to be trained to do the right thing. You will say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You will say, yes, sir, and no, sir. You will say, please. Say, may I. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And you will do that until you're 18 years old, because I'm going to train you with the right perspective. I was taught that way. Am I a great person? No, I am not.
Well,
but I want to be, and I have striven to be, and I will continue to teach my children. I have great-grandchildren now. I'm about your age. I'm 72 years old. I think you're about that age.
yeah.
You may be younger. I'm not
No,
sure.
I'm a little bit older. I'm ahead of you there, James. But
Yes, sir.
but
And-
back to what you're saying, and to verify what you're saying, I was a young boy in Davila, Texas, when I was about 8 or 10 years old, and I would go down to Burns's grocery store, and at that time, if you walked in that store, if a female walked into that store and there was several older men in there, you did not say so much as a damn or a hell in front of a female. It didn't matter if she was black, green, white, or purple. If it was a female, you did not say a cuss word in front of her. And, compare that in the 40s or 50s to today, when you use the F word and all that kind of stuff in front of women. They do it on TV, and then everybody laughs. You know, what are we doing, James? Where does this road take us? Man.
Well, you know, one of the things, I know that you use the term common sense. I've got a saying that I said. I've been talking. I'm going to pound, and I'm going to pound common sense until it is popular again.
Well, that makes two of us, James.
I'm not going to give up on it. My children, they get off and they do things they shouldn't do. Okay, listen, this is not right. I will continue to say, this is the way, walk ye therein, until we have enough people who will continue to do this. There is going to be a turnaround. I will not accept defeat. It's not going to happen. Well, I'm not going to say, how is it we're ever going to... No, I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to keep on. You can poo-poo me. You can hang up on me. You can shout me down, like you said a while ago, that, the liberals and the socialists, they'll just shout you down. That's what happened. If I can swing into this real quick, and I know I don't have much time. This is how the devil did what he did. He overpowered her, Eve. He kept telling her, no, did not God tell you this and that? Don't believe him. It's not. And so he come up and he kept on and kept on and kept on. And finally, she capitulated. She got to the point where she said, I can't take it no more. I'm going to go ahead.
We got 1 minute left, James. I guess to echo your point, old Satan is still alive and well. He ain't gone away yet. We just need to decide who we're going to follow. As for me and my house, you know where I'm going.
Well, and his defense, his method of attacking us is not going to change. It's just going to be argumentative nonsense is what it is.
Yeah, and if they spread that often enough, okay, got to get out of here, I guess. James, thank you for the call. And y'all stay tuned. Next Saturday, we'll do the same thing again.